Welcome to the Intentional Queen podcast, where women come to be empowered on their self love, self healing, and growth mindset journey. Oh my gosh, guys, I am so happy to have you here with me. I am Janine. I am the podcast host, and I am also a life coach. And I'm just so glad to have you guys with me. So, we are now in March, okay? And in March, we definitely want to talk about Women History Month. So, we're going to celebrate that thing out there this month. But last month, let's just do a recap, was February, and I called it Self-Love Month. And I did something on my social media platform every day, 28 days. You got something from me in reference to affirmations or just some things to get you on your way. Since it's March, you should check your email. You should already have your intentional refuel in your email. Look out for it. I said that on the last podcast that I will have the newsletter coming out the last Thursday of every month. And so if you sign up after that Thursday has happened and you didn't receive it, then just email me and I will send it to you. I try to make sure I show up for you, but if I miss something, please know I'm human. And if you need something, just reach out to your girl. I am a show of one, meaning when you send the emails, they come to me. When you're reaching out to me. There is nobody in my place. I am doing this thing on my own out here in these streets with the grace of God, but also with you guys leveling me up, and we just out here iron sharpen iron. This, like I said, is March. It's Women Empowerment. It's Women History Month. So this month, I want to really just celebrate that. But I want to really make this be about mindset this month. So I'm really going to be digging in on some things that I feel like it's going to bless you. I'm definitely even going to have a special guest coming through. I got a banging interview that's going to be, and this is going to touch you. You might even get a little tearful. And so I want you to make sure that you listen to all 3 podcast episodes this month and just get this refuel. And make sure, like I said, check your email, because then I'll make sure to have the refuel recap at the end of the month. You see where I'm going with that? Thursdays seem to be our days. So one thing y'all know about me is consistency is key. And so I feel like when I was deciding how I wanted to do it, Thursdays work well because you're used to that. Most of the time people get their newsletters in the beginning of the month, but I think a refuel could be something at the end. So I'm feeding you throughout the month, and then I'm going to hit you with that recap and that refuel to get you to the next time. That was my thought process behind that. We're going to see how it works. If it don't work out, we just switch it up again. That's one thing you'll start learning with growth mindset is you only try and then you pivot. If it ain't working, you try something else, but you would never know if you never tried. That's a word for somebody today. Okay. So just get out there. My word of the year is evolve. And what I mean by that is I'm just evolving through the stages to the butterfly, but just looking for better ways to be intentional and just show up as my authentic self. And when you're in evolution, it's just stages to that thing. And so you just embrace where you are in that spot. And, screenshot or rate and review the podcast, whatever makes you feel good to support me. I appreciate everything you've done. So silence can be a superpower until it's necessary to speak. It's been on me about speaking. And I've been just knowing that confirmation of speak, that word means something. The podcast is a place for me to speak, right? And you guys come in, you tune in, and you get that word. And people ask me, how do I know what to talk about? And truth is, I pray. I am a spiritual one. I'm still in training. So, sometimes people try, you be having to pray about it. But I want you to know that God runs this ship. And when he does that, he lets me know how I maneuver. So he doesn't come down, and like just tell me exactly what to say. But I pray because I want to be intentional when I show up for you guys about what I'm going to talk about. Today, I feel like silence is a superpower and that calmness is mastery. That term calmness is mastery comes from that book, James Allen, talking about As a Man Thinketh. And I talk about that all the time. And that's why we got a podcast episode devoted all to it in a blog page. I'll make sure to leave that in the show notes. And that is talking about as a man think of and how you have to stay calm. And a lot of your calmness comes in your silence. Okay. In the Bible, Psalm 46, you know how you hear, be still and know that I am God. In your times of trials with enemies and storms, as you know, sometimes you got to be able to be still and stand where you're standing. Because, I said that in Bloom Where You Are. That was my last episode. I think I did in December. It was this video by Bishop Knowles. And he talked about you had to go through it. That whole sermon blessed me for about a year straight. And I listened to it at least 3 times a day. And it got to a point I knew the words verbatim. But one of the things he says is, I'm standing where I'm standing and I will not be moved. And when they come with that contrary wind, I've been there and I've done that. That means something. And pretty much what he's saying here is when you can stand as your authentic self in the light and not be wavered by the foolery, by the judgments, by the schemes, by the deceit, by the trickery, by so much. Because I mean, it was a list. And it's not just one person. I just want to go on record and say, when I speak about my storms, I'm not relating to just one relationship. It was more than one relationship that was broken or tarnished through some of these storms. And when I speak, I'm generalizing it because I want people to understand that you can make it equate to whatever's going on in your life. But when I'm speaking of mine, it's not just one relationship. I just want to clear that up because I do got people who come in to spy. That's just my little caveat. I had to put that little disclaimer in that thing real quick, but we're going to move on. And so, as I move on talking about silence is a superpower, let's talk about snakes. Y'all hear me talk about this all the time, but there's some positive things to snakes, okay? And this is what I want you to learn. I was, looking on YouTube. I'm always like I said, I feed my brain every day because that's how you learn. Like you have to feed it, whatever way you do it, just like feed that thing. It was this video and it was talking about things you can learn from snakes and also was talking about some scripture and stuff. And I was like, let me see what you're talking about over here. There was some things. So this is some of the key lessons that was there that I was like, yeah, you're right, sure enough. They strike at the right time. And that's because they wait. Okay? Because they watch their surroundings. Think about that now. Think about it. Because when they strike, they don't just strike just to strike. They wait. Okay? They watching you. So be watchful. They watch the surroundings that you have around you. So they're watching the surroundings they have around them because they're not going to show who they really are because they don't want to get hurt. They don't want to get caught. They ain't got legs. You know what I mean? So watch them. Okay. They come in slow and not loud. I said, ooh, they come in slow. So they creep in. They don't come in being loud to be noticed. Okay. They take notes on the environment. I said, ooh, okay. They find a safe place to hide out under a rock, in a new house, in new things. Listen, they remain low key until it's time to strike. Remember, I said they strike when it's time. Okay. Cher Jakes Roberts. She's come to our church in the past, but I also read some of her books. And she always talks about this Eve sermon. And she says, the bruised heel can still stump the head of the serpent. So sometimes when you're bruised and you broken out there, you bent, you think you can't get that snake? Yes, you can. A bruised heel can still stump the head of the serpent. Sit with that. Y'all know always talking about this. Keep your grass low. That means so you can see when your grass is high, you don't know what's all under the grass. Okay. Keep your grass low so you can see what's going on. Okay. And move your snake line up. Because remember, as I said about altitude, they will fall off. You Michelle Obama out here, okay? When they go low, you go high. That's why I say go higher. Because, there's another word coming in. Listen, plants. When you be out there pruning off them leaves, okay? The dead ones, they tell you get that foliage off. It's just wait, okay? So you have to let the dead stuff come off if it's not meant to be there, whatever that is, and know your capacity to hold all this stuff I talked about in the capacity to hold episode that bless some people. So we gonna move through that, but I thought that was deep about some snakes and I didn't really think about it from that angle. So it's something to be learned there. Let's talk about the power of protection. Even though a snake can bite you, because I've been bit by a snake, not a physical snake, but I've been bit by a snake. When you get bit by a snake, God won't let that venom kill you. Some people are awaiting your downfall, but God will bless you right in front of them with a table because they thought you were defeated or destroyed. And this is what I'm telling you right here, when it looks like you were buried versus being planted. And y'all know I'm always talking about that. When I talk about the horse and donkey, I think I did that one in Breaking Free. Okay, they threw dirt on the donkey. It's the same concept, right? They thought that they were burying you, but you was being replanted, baby girl. Hear me, because you're getting ready to grow, because you're growing. That's evolution. You're growing. You use that as fuel because you're getting ready to use them as stepping stools to come out because it's what you do with the fuel. So you got to stay leveled up. You have to stay prayed up. You have to be maintained. Psalm 91. Sometimes I even have to put that on YouTube as a nighttime meditation to go to sleep because with new levels come new devils. People want to see you win. You got people that do want to see you win, but you also, when you attract with light, you attract bad too. And it's just the way it falls. They hated on Jesus. The power of perseverance. I tell you, going upstream is harder than sliding downstream. Okay. And I talked about this too. The lotus flower has to come up through the murky water to be beautiful every time. The phoenix, what does it do? It is a bird made from fire and ashes to come out to be beautiful. Okay. A koi fish swims upstream. It's a fish that goes the opposite way. Okay. Sometimes God will put a private matter. Because if you like me, you're an introvert and you private, you don't want your business in the street. Sometimes God will put a private matter on Front Street for everyone to see how you going to respond and the power of prayer. Because now people can see, because it was on Front Street, what you wanted in silence, what you wanted to be in the back. God used it as a front to show people what he here to do. Your resilience and your power, perseverance can save somebody else. Your test can be a testimony for somebody. He'll use your enemies as footstools. So, like I said, remember about the horse and the donkey and the hole. Now, silence. Silence is talking about the tongue, the power of the tongue. It's death and light in that thing. And listen, you used to come for me, I ain't sent for you. Talk about with my mouth. Oh, I was back. I was back. What you say? That's how I do it. What you say? Oh, okay. Because in my world, you don't let nobody punk you. Okay, that's not what we do. You don't be letting them slide with that shade. You be like, "Did you throw a palm tree at me?" That's slang. Did you throw a palm tree? Because a palm tree creates shade. So, did you throw a palm tree at me real quick? Because sometimes they laugh and they throw a little shade. You be like, "Hold on, did you throw a palm tree? Don't think I ain't see it." And what I started to learn is you don't have to acknowledge every shade. You don't have to acknowledge the fake text when you know it's fake. Like you don't have to acknowledge all that, but you already know what they was doing in the streets behind the scenes. Like, listen, don't hit me with that. I don't have time for that. I don't hate you, but we see you. Sometimes silence is a stiff boundary, but you have to be careful because people will use it as a weapon. And you don't always want to use silence as a weapon, especially in a relationship. I'm talking about in a loving relationship, in a friendship. You don't use silence as a weapon or in a relationship that you want to work out. Now, if you don't care about the relationship, you can use as much silence as you want to. But if it's something you're trying to maintain, be cautious. That's a cautionary tale. But we're going to dig deep. So this right here, I want you to talk to yourself nicely and even do that for people too. And I already talked about this before about in my last power of discovery for February. I talked about talk to me nice as a love language, but also your house is your first ministry. And so be mindful how you talk to yourself, but also how you talk to people. But a lot of time, how you talk to people is really how you talk to yourself. So when you start talking to yourself better, it will exude a different way. That's why I said it starts from within you. You get it now? It's layers to this thing. When I speak in layers. Okay. And so people will be nice to you sometimes in the streets, but they'll be privately, they'll call you everything but a child of God. Okay. And so you have to be mindful of that too. And remember, I said, when they go low, you go high. But don't you not feel like you have to cover them. So, meaning like you take the disrespect in silence and don't tell people. It's called silence is a superpower until it's necessary to speak. So, when I was going through my recent storm, I was silent for a reason because I knew it would not be beneficial for me. Because, see, when you're not healed, let's start there. When you're not healed, because I'm not even going to talk about my personal relationship, we're going to get into that. But when you're not healed, it's not really good for you to speak because you can spew venom that can discredit you and them because of everything you said. Because when you do become healed, people don't forget what you said when you were not healed. So sometimes God will shut your mouth because he'd be like, you ain't ready to speak. So you need to be silent. You need to work on you. And sometimes God hits you with a mirror. Okay. So when you look at somebody, they hit you with a mirror. And what do you see is yourself? And sometimes that's what I mean by when you're being replanted, when you're being crushed. It's that mirror time. It's that time for you to work on you. Not that you was doing everything wrong. Don't take that on. That's not what I'm saying. But we all have things we can work on within self. What they say, take the speck out your eye before you go for somebody else's speck. So sometimes God deal with your speck before you deal with their speck. But you can demand respect. Now that you get more healed and you become more intentional, when you speak, you don't do it for venom. You do it for a place of telling your story without being a victim. Because you're never a victim, you're a victor. And when you change the narrative of what you tell yourself and you talk to yourself nice, it don't matter what they say. Because when it was your time to be silent, that was your superpower. But now it's your time to speak. And when you can speak from a place of love and not hate, and you can speak from a place of integrity, what they gonna do? So don't cover up all the things that have happened. You expose them. There's something that they say too. When the tide comes in, you're going to see who's naked and who's clothed. So there were times when you all looking out into the water at the beach. Everybody look like they got bathing suit on. Everybody, all you see is the top of their heads. Okay. See their heads next down. Can't see that. But then the water wash away. And then you be like, oh, oh. So what I'm saying is exposure will come later. Silence is a superpower. Know when to speak and when not to speak. So be quick to listen and be slow to speak. Talk about it. People don't like to communicate, and that's a relationship goal. That's for somebody right there. And I'm gonna just sit on that for 1 second. And that's even in the Bible. They say, don't go to bed. Don't let the sun go down. This is the thought work that comes behind that. It's communication. And so when you want something, not that you need it, but when you want something to work out, you do the work for it. You only really put in what like you vest into something you want. And so if you don't vest, that shows sign that you don't want it. I told you people can use this silence as a weapon. That's a narcissistic trait. Be mindful of that. They use it as a weapon. Know that everything has a time and a place, but know who you're dealing with. So allow them to be who they are, because when people show you who they are, you believe them. That's Maya Angelou all day. When they show you, believe them. Know the definition of insanity. That's doing the same thing over, expecting this different result. If it didn't work when you did that, like try something else. And then if you keep trying and you're trying and you ain't getting nowhere, do you stay there? Is this dissolved? Did we just dissolve this? Oh, you handed me some scissors? Oh, okay. Well, let me just use these scissors because you just handed them to me anyway because you don't want this. Look for change behavior, not word salad. Okay. Because people will hit you with this word salad. What's a word salad? They put truths and lies together. Okay. Salads are supposed to be healthy. So you're like, oh, yeah, I believe that. This is what it is. But then, they throw in a little dabble of this, a little dabble of that. And next, you're eating a salad. So you're eating truth and lies. You don't even know what's what. You just like, what's this gaslighting? What is this? And sometimes it don't even be them gaslighting you. You be gaslighting yourself because they say something to you. Be like, well, hold on now. Nah, get clear. And see, that's the thing about knowing who you are, you'll start to know what you stand on. Knowing who your tribe is, the real roots, that's when you start getting real clear because they know you. I mean, I could tell you, man, listen, there was people that came up from my past and it was like, yo, you will not get in the mud. That's not who you are. You will not get in the mud. They would just call me, you will not get in the mud. That's just not who you are. I've known you for years, Janine, decades. Don't get in the mud. Because listen, I'll be like, oh, they are sending for me out here. Okay, they want to sit. What? and then God dealt with me. He's like, silence is your superpower. I'll tell you when to speak. And so here we are on the Central Queen podcast, y'all, speaking. Okay. Like I said, be mindful of gaslighting and manipulation out here. It's real in the streets. And like I said, sometimes you might be gaslighting yourself because you done been through so much. You be like, well, hold on now, baby. Let me reevaluate, And it's nothing wrong with reevaluating yourself because we all make mistakes, okay? And we all go through things. But just notice sometimes where it turns into a little bit more than that. And you can easily, this is a time. This is the message. Y'all. So it's this concept. And, 4 people that said this to me in like the last I don't know month, but I feel like I'm getting ready to insert right here. And it's called the frog parable. Because I always step on to see what a parable. So I probably got to do a video on it. And it's this. You can be in an environment, and we're gonna call it the frog parable. And say you have a stove, okay? And you put water on the stove in a pot, and then you put a frog in it, okay? And then you turn the temperature up to hot, because you got gas now. Turn it up to high. And next thing you know, the frog jump out because it's hot in here. I ain't standing here. And then we do it all over again. Let's try it a little different. You turn the water on to like a low boil, a low simmer. And then the frog be like, oh, this is more like a bath. Oh, this is nice right in here. So you say, okay, he getting comfortable. Let me turn it up a little bit. Boom, go to medium high. He said, oh, it's a little hot. It's getting hot in here. What? Okay. But he stay. And then you put it on high. And now you can't jump out. Why? Because you done cooked them. But listen, there's a word here. Stay with me. Things don't happen overnight. Situations don't always happen overnight. It's a slow walk. They slow walk you. And so when they slow walk you, you don't even realize what's happening. You didn't went from thinking you was in a jacuzzi to being cooked. And then when you try to jump out, you didn't cook yourself because you didn't been sitting in that bath too long on high. It didn't happen overnight. So when you blaming yourself and you like, man, how I get here? You got here on a slow walk. That's how you got there. They didn't turn the temperature up to high. They slow walked you piece by piece. But guess what? Just because it was piece by piece don't mean you can't come out that thing. Okay? Period. Now I'm sounding like Uncle Tony. Tony Gaskins. Period. Okay? Period. Know your worth, man. Know your value. And know when it's compromised. The scissor concept. I talked about that on the last one. Listen to that about people handing you the scissors. Okay. And surround yourself around wise men and counsel. You'll become the most 5 people that you spend the most time with. So examine that. Look at that real carefully. Don't lean on your own understanding because things that happened to you, baby girl, could have been protective. It was a lesson learned. It was for you to grow. And I even put this up on my Twitter, and this resonated with people. No, the letters NO can stand for next opportunity. I had 2 queens reach out to me, and they were both related to them going through a job and feeling rejection. And I said, next opportunity. Take that as it could be a covering. It could be a lesson. It could be a growth plate. Next opportunity. Know what refills your cup. You know what I mean? And do that. That's why we talked about love languages on last episode. Start learning what you need to be you. So when you're showing up in relationships and in places and spaces, you showing up as your best self. So this recap, and we're going to get you on out here. Silence can be a superpower until it's necessary to speak. Know when to speak, know when not to. Be okay if silence is used as a boundary, but don't use it as a weapon of manipulation. They try you out here in these streets. Stay calm. Know that snake energy is real, but there's some lessons that we can learn from them, okay? Know the power of protection, perseverance, and the power of the tongue. I had to learn some of these life lessons myself. I listen to my clients when they talk about it. I'm on some face groups and some women is going through this. Your testimony may free somebody. So our thought work is I want you to think about yourself and the top people you spend the most time with. How do you respond in the streets with situations and conflict resolution with others? And then I want you to give yourself healthy boundaries and grace in that space. That's the biggest thing I want you to do. Give yourself healthy boundaries and grace in this space. And actually, you give them grace too, because unhealed people hurt people. So hurt people hurt people. So what you want them to do is you pray for them to be healed, because then they'll stop hurting people because they're not hurt. That's a word. So I'm a life coach, certified in self-love and growth mindset. Sign up for your free consultation call with me one-on-one. If you're ready for it, I'm ready for it. Okay. And we're just going to close out with you following me on Twitter. It's at Janine IQ Journey. Rate, subscribe to whatever platform you enjoy listening to this Intentional Queen content. Look for your Intentional Refuel newsletter. It's going to come out last Thursday of every month. And I see you guys in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.